welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Beyond the Summit presentation. Bring you guys a game between Rising Stars and Orange Esports. This is going to be a very fun game here. These guys have made it to the quarterfinals here. That's a best-of-3 series going on through this AMD Premier League. So thank you guys so much for tuning on into the game, and hopefully you guys will enjoy. I myself am Blazed, joined here today by Skim Gaming. How's it going, man?
Hey man, thanks for having me. Exciting game. Orange, one of the top teams in the Asian scene, already invited to the International 3, and Rising Stars, as the name says, basically, they're Rising Stars, literally. I've seen them in G1 League qualifiers. There was some impressive display of skill and team coordination, so I'm looking forward as to how they're going to present themselves today. They are also in the qualifiers for the Eastern division, so they will have to show that they can definitely deliver on time.
Yeah, most definitely. So in this position here, both teams have kind of been moving on forward. Both of them are in a really good position in the Eastern Scene as a whole. I've seen both of these guys in the previous games casting up their matches in the previous rounds, and both of them have a really strong showing. I really like Rising Stars' aggression and the level of thought they put into when they want to put out pressure on certain individuals. They have a very targeted way of moving forward. But Orange, of course, branching out, they have just such great individual skill, and they have been coordinating extremely well. So I expect both of them to kind of, generally speaking, you would consider both of these guys to be powerhouses in a standard matchup. When you're talking about everything leading up to this, they're kind of fighting out against the guys who qualified and things like that, and they're always a fan favorite. But right now, I think that these two teams are relatively evenly matched, and so, I mean, obviously there will be a favorite on some counts, but I really expect this to be a really good matchup here. And of course, it is a best-of-3, so we get some more awesome games out of them back and forth. Right now, though, starting off, we do see the Bat Rider and the Lifestealer taken off the board for Rising Stars. In turn, we see the Magnus and the Shadow Demon banned out for Orange, and then they do pick up the Nyx Assassin. So it's off to a good start as far as their draft goes, and yeah, they can get starting building up their own style.
Interesting that they ban out the Shadow Demon, actually. It's been quite some time since Shadow Demon was first banned material. I think he's a really good support, and you can definitely couple him up with some good other supports like the Chen or the Lina to get some sort of dual roaming going on, but well, interesting. And they pick up the Rubik and the Clockwork in return. Also really strong heroes, and doesn't give away too much yet about their lineup. Whereas Nyx Assassin, they kind of have to put him all in the support role. I don't see him really as a mid anymore, just because the last nerf made him a bit weaker, and in general there's so many stronger mid heroes, I think.
Yeah, so a lot of different options. I mean, if he was up against a certain counter pick, it would be effective, but right now, just the way they want to play it, they're happy to just use him as a hard disabler. And the cool thing about Nyx is that once he starts getting rolling with that ultimate, he can actually just start going into a gank-oriented machine. I mean, he doesn't have to be like the Nyx Assassin solo kill, you and your jungle over and over kind of hero. He doesn't have to steamroll in that sense, but he actually adds a lot of momentum where you force the enemy to buy sentry wards, or you get really good vision just scouting around in the Vendetta, and then, of course, you do get that opportunity to just get a huge burst of physical damage, a little bit of magic damage on top of that. And they're going to go for a very well-rounded lane setup here. The Lone Druid and the Juggernaut. The Lone Druid will go on the off lane, Juggernaut on the safe lane, and how that'll play out, unless they want to pressure the anti-mage harder, I guess they could run an aggressive tri-lane if they did so wish. But the most important thing is that once the Lone Druid is level 7, level 8, level 9, somewhere in there, he's going to group up with the Juggernaut, and they can push together with the Healing Ward and the Spirit Bear together, and it is just so darn devastating. They need to develop some counter push, and I don't think right now anti-mage is going to cut it, but it does work for their draft as far as making sure that they have their tri-lane taken care of, Rubik and anti-mage, possibly Clockwork, but I don't expect that. Clockwork will probably go on the off lane, but we have seen him support from time to time.
Yeah, some teams also run him even in the mid lane, but I don't see that. Well, it's not that common just yet, but still. Yeah, you mentioned the push potential from Orange. It's really strong, and Rising Stars, they have to get some good counter pushes going on, and they actually banned the Keeper of the Light themselves, which I find a bit surprising because their counter push currently is rather weak with just a Fate Bolt and the Rocket Spam maybe. But looks like Rising Stars will be playing some sort of 4 Protect 1 where they have the anti-mage farming up. In terms of mid-heroes, I would suggest, I think a Puck would be a viable option, just because he has also those spells that you can kind of spam out and can at least clear some waves when they're pushing in.
Yeah, most definitely. So At this stage, we're going to be seeing Rising Stars banning out supportive heroes that coincide with the Nyx Assassin a little bit. Maybe put in like a Leshrac would be pretty solid to ban out because they are worried about that push just a little bit. And then, of course, they're actually going for the Bane, which that's kind of interesting. I mean, it does have some hard lockdown that works well with against the Anti-Mage, and maybe that's something they're concerned about, but yeah, not too big a deal either way. I honestly don't, when I have a Clockwork on my team, I generally don't look at the Bane and say that's a major threat, because you can always get the Battery Assault or the Hookshot ultimate to prevent the channeled ulti, the Fiend's Grip, and suddenly it's just not going to be that big of a deal. But no, they did want to take it off the board, and they're banning out some good supports that'll work well with the Nyx Assassin, so they're going to accomplish that. But interesting bans coming out of Orange. They take off kind of the mid, solo, / off-lane heroes of the Queen of Pain and the Darkseer. And then also the Dragon Knight, which is just a completely different ballpark. In this situation, they just don't want too much push going the other direction with the Green Dragon form, and yeah, a little bit of hard lockdown disable. So just something that Rising Stars could pick up as a situational mid, and they want to make sure that that's not going to be an option here.
Yeah, as you mentioned, DK has been picked up by Asian teams quite often actually as the mid hero. Sometimes, if the laning demands for it. Although I wouldn't see it being that strong here, because a DK is not that ganker that can actually accomplish much. I mean, you have the ultimate that can push well, but that's about it. And I feel that if they have a DK and an Anti-Mage in the team, it doesn't strike me as that strong. But yeah, Orange go for the line pickup, which I find very, very good. The Hex has almost an instant cast animation, so that you get the Hex immediately on the Anti-Mage before he even gets his blink off. Mm-hmm. And locking him down won't be that hard with a Lion, with a Nyx Assassin. Yeah. And even with the Lone Druid if he gets some lucky Admiral Bulldog entangled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually the main reason I think they want to pick up the the Lion in this situation, is to counter out the Anti-Mage, to go ahead and pick up the Hex and get that skilled up very, very early, so you probably won't see a mana drain oriented Lion. And yeah, I mean, like I said, there's other supports that could add in a little bit more as far as push goes, like the Leshrac could follow up stuns after the Nyx Assassin, but the issue there is that it doesn't really provide a reliable lockdown for AM, and that could be just causing a little bit of problems there. So I definitely like the Lion pickup in that circumstance. The question is how fast their tower push will be, and that'll mostly be on the shoulders of the Juggernaut and the Lone Druid, more so than anything else. Either way, we're going to have a lot of little spikes coming out of the ground, a lot of cool moves, and a lot of hard lockdown coming in from Orange, because as you said, the Entangle is really, really effective against Anti-Mage as well, so you combine that together, that's going to be very, very substantial. So the final pickups here, we see Templar Assassin in the mid for Rising Stars, Brewmaster in the mid for that of Orange. So it's going to be a matchup, melee versus melee, but with a little bit of Drunken Haze action, it can really, really inhibit Templar Assassin's damage, so it'll be interesting to see how that lane plays itself out.
Yeah, Jakiro. Actually nice. Yeah, I think the Brewmaster should do fairly well against the TA, and yeah, also because of the Drunken Haze, but just because I think Brewmaster is really tanky, and TA strives from being able to harass their enemies and stuff like that, but Brewmaster can definitely keep up with that. Mm-hmm. And should we introduce the players?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and start off with either of the rosters.
Yeah, I'm taking Orange. Is that actually Ohio, the Ogre?
I believe so, yes.
I think it is, because yeah, he is, yeah. So Ohio will take on the role of the Lone Druid. It is KYXY on the role of the Panda, and Brewmaster. X, or also known as Extinct, playing the Nyx Assassin. It is Ned on Lion, and Mushi taking on the role of the carried Juggernaut.
Okay. And if we're looking over at Rising Stars, we do see that Super has been the one to pick up that Jakiro there. We do have Mofi over on the Clockwork Goblin. XDD is going to be running that Rubik. Then we do have, of course, Zautuji on the Anti-Mage, and Air is going to be the one on the Templar Assassin.
Interesting lanes, putting the Lone Druid on the offlane. I mean, it's pretty standard, and you talked about it, but actually a few teams have preferred to actually run the Juggernaut on the offlane, just to put him in some sort of supportish role, just to level up the ward, and then come to the bottom lane and get for a good push.
Absolutely. That's a lot of potential. So with that offlane Juggernaut, or sorry, the offlane Lone Druid, he is going to have a little bit of issue on the top lane right now with 2G coming in and getting a lot of right clicks on. That's going to take out not but half his HP. Actually, the pathing was a little bit poor there. He actually took a bit of extra hits because of the fact that he tangoed there. And actually looking for a dive, going for the first blood, and there's nothing to stop him here. He actually summoned his bear too, so that's first blood to out 2G. That's 70 seconds without a spirit bear. And this lane is going to get worse and worse for him as he cannot manipulate the creep wave. He just fed up the anti-mage, which was the opposite of his intentions. And yeah, now he's in a very, very rough spot.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. This was, kind of, yeah, as you mentioned, a really bad start for him. And I think he has to transition back into the jungle, stack a few camps, and maybe then clear the small camp with his bear. Yeah, he can't even, it's really horrendous. I'm not even sure if there's anything he could have done differently.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that his pathing was a bit weird, but still, the haste rune is still strong.
Yeah, I mean, at best, if he had gone perfectly to the position that he needed to avoid that situation, he might have gotten a few more hits on the anti-mage, gotten into the trees on the west, but I think he still would have died in the end, so there's really not too much to be said about that. Either way, like you said, he's going back onto the jungle, just going to go for some high ground farming, at least for now, and then he's going to drop the bear as soon as he gets the opportunity. Do see a transition mid. Super is going to try to go in and put some pressure on KYXY. If they cannot delay the bottle, but if they can delay other main things, the big weaknesses of Brewmaster are both the mobility components and his mana sustainability. So if they can delay Blink Daggers, Arcane Boots, things like that, you can actually make sure that he's not going to be much of a factor in the engagements here. It's interesting to see, though, that Orange are the ones to start off with the Flying Courier first. Like, the Ground Courier is going to help out TA and still give her bottle, but she's going to be more rune-reliant until that Crow is up to Bottle Crow.
Yeah, I guess they were doing it because when you're playing on the Radiant side, your courier is much more, well, it's easier to kill a courier actually with the support. He just has to stand on the high ground right here on the minimap, and one hit is sufficient, whereas on the other side it's a bit more difficult than that because you get scouted out earlier. So I guess maybe that's the reason why they, upgraded it so early.
So, in this position here, we're going to see the first Bottle Crow come out. Again, that is still a Ground Courier, so no haste for that specifically, but it's not going to be the end of the world either way. Interesting movement from the Lone Druid, trying his hand with his second bear, sending it out into the jungle and trying to do that creep aggro manipulation. It's going to be sent down the cliff, but that shouldn't prevent it from finding its opportunity to snag the aggro from the creep wave. And the big intention here is just to try to get as many creeps as possible on his tower to farm safely. And if he can just delay the wave as significantly, that's going to be a key component of that. Right now they're sending out some spells at it, doing a lot of right clicks, but the Stout Shield will make it rather tanky, and they have to do perfect path blocking if they're actually going to be able to bring it down. So dropping it down to sub half HP, but it should remain there, and that's going to be allowing it to just continue to move the creeps over. Nice neutral pull, though. Will at least take up one of the two that he had snagged. So not too much for his endeavors, but just something to look at while the lanes progress themselves. On the top lane, we do see Anti-Mage sitting at 20 CS, 21 now, with on 9 denies, and Juggernaut's just behind that with 19 and 9. So right now, Anti-Mage is going to be able to get to that really, really bulky point where he can go in with a lot of movement speed, have the Manta style, have a lot of attack speed and attack damage with the Mana Break. He's going to be a very, very major presence if he finds those items at a good timing window. But right now, what we're going to be looking at him is just probably farming up a Battle Fury. He already has his Treads and Poor Man's Shield, but we often see more conservative carry players go for those two items before going for the Battle Fury and still picking it up.
Yeah, I think this Lone Druid should really transition into the jungle. I don't think his time will be, well, I don't think he can be that effective in the lane, and he is actually getting Ice Path, but
yeah, just going, it was a nice double Ice Path, hit both the bear and the Druid itself, and then they feed Zautuji another extra 100 gold. So just kind of making sure that he gets the bounty there, putting him in a good position. What do you think about this Clockwork transition? Getting zoned out of bottom, getting no experience at all, so he's decided to leech off the Templar Assassin, saying, okay, well, once you hit level 6, you have rune control, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to pick up at least my level 2, so I can Rocket Flare a little bit, and Cogs, of course, as well. We do see a haste rune picked up. This could be his death. Mofi in a rough spot, but the Cogs on the high ground should be enough to push him backwards. Either way, Net's not going to go in too deep here. Just going to go around in a big circle, but that courier is flying. I don't know. It has haste in 2 seconds. Yeah, they're not going to be able to bring it down. Net wants to, but not really an opportunity. Finds out Mofi, but he's near his tier 2. With that Stout Shield, that's way too many right clicks for him to send that direction, so it looks like there's going to be no trouble at all. But there is continuous pressure coming down to this bottom tier 1 tower. The Healing Word has just expired, but has been well at work. Keeping the creep wave sustained so that they can push down on this tower. It's already dropping very, very low, and mirroring that, we see that Anti-Mage is just choosing to farm rather than push. So he's trying to keep his lane the way it is, keep the status quo, whereas Orange wants to put the pressure on. They want to bring down towers, get a huge gold advantage, and just start kind of steamrolling from there.
Yeah, I think Anti-Mage is actually doing the right thing. His lane was pushing because the bear was once again disrupting the pools. And instead of just pounding on the tower, he pounded on the Lone Druid, in fact. And Lone Druid couldn't get an experience for any of the creeps. So nice movement. And I think, yeah, Ohio's already transitioning into the jungle. I think he has to. At this point, he's not getting any farm, and he can't really disrupt the Anti-Mage's farm, so he's basically wasting his time, and he actually transitioned into the mid lane. I guess soaking up a bit of XP before going into the jungle.
Yeah, kind of the same mindset for both offlane players. They're like really, really far behind, and they're just trying to get every little bit of experience they can to rebound a little bit. In this situation, Clockwork is almost level 3. You can say the same about the Lone Druid. So both of them having almost an equally bad time, but I gotta say, comparatively speaking, you fed a lot more gold to that Anti-Mage with the first blood and a couple of bear kills. It adds up very quickly. And now they're going for that push. They have one in Liquid Fire, they have all 3 heroes here. They seem to be bringing it down extremely quickly. The Spirit Bear will come in to force the creeps off the tower. This should make it so that, yeah, heroes are going to take some damage hits from the tower, but with this next creep wave, they will still bring it down. So that's going to be kind of bouncing back. That gold gain that previously was picked up by Orange is now kind of equalized out for Rising Stars.
Yeah, and you mentioned that both offlaners have a pretty equal bad game so far, but I think Clockwork can deal with that. A Clockwork level 6 or level 8 is still more effective than a Lone Druid level 8 who has no farm. So this is a favorable trade for Rising Stars, and yeah, they should feel comfortable with this.
Yeah, Clockwork, all he needs is survivability. As soon as he hits level 6, he still has a substantial range of initiation. Of course, more levels is always going to be favorable, but it's not the end of the world if he can't pick up, like, early level 16 or something like that. Whereas Lone Druid, he is rushing up. His level 7 is level 8, wanting to have as much presence on the map, more pushing, more right-click damage, and of course, kind of going that semi-carry role. That's why they drafted this dual-core lineup, and so there's going to be farm priority on both the Juggernaut and the Lone Druid in the near future, and right now, one of them is starting off very far behind. They will get some nice auras and such to help him out a little bit. Drums of Endurance will keep him mobile on the battlefield, but I really don't think he's going to be like a hardcore split push Lone Druid who can go by himself and put pressure out on a lane. We're going to see enough counter gank action that he's going to be very, very unwary of trying to actually jump in that direction.
Yeah, kind of a slow start from both teams. Not real roaming coming out if you count out the offlaners that transitioned into the mid lane. And I guess they feel really well. I think Rising Stars should feel comfortable with just getting their farm, and I think it's onto Orange to actually apply some pressure, because with an Anti-Mage on the enemy team, you always have this sort of time bomb, because Anti-Mage with some certain farm, I don't think a Lone Druid and a Juggernaut is going to cut it.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to do some harassment to Air with the double damage room, but the refraction makes it so no matter how many right clicks you send that direction, it's just not going to be much of an impact. He does, however, pick up the illusion runes, so forcing out another Bottle Crow from Air, and yeah, not really copying one himself. It's going to be in a pretty good position where he can still stay active on the lane, and he already has his ultimate, doesn't have to use it just yet to find a kill or survive, but he is going to be looking at a position where he can rush a very early Blink Dagger. A little bit Drunken Haze to screw over the Templar Assassin, but really the big thing is once he gets that Blink. A Blink and a Clap on heroes like Jakiro and Rubik, who are already very, very slow, and you suddenly have a guaranteed successful team fight. Not necessarily guaranteed successful team fight, but even if your team fight is successful, you're going to be able to follow up and kill everybody else, because you can chase to no end. You can keep on going with the Juggernaut and with the Brewmaster all the way across the map, because you always have that Blink and that slowing effect that just allows you to catch up to pretty much anybody that you're looking for. Yeah,
definitely. Orange doing the right move, trying to apply a bit of pressure to the mid lane, but doesn't really feel like they're fully committing to this. It's only 3 heroes, and I think they need all 5 to actually make something happen. But I guess they're just waiting. Yeah, they just gave Extinct on the bottom lane his level 6, and hopefully now there's going to be some sort of rotation or roaming coming out, because they're giving a bit of too much space to Rising Stars in my mind, and even TA is farming up fairly nicely, even though she gets Drunken Haze and whatnot. And oh, there's might be an engagement on mid lane.
Yeah, he has to prop up the Primal Split pretty quickly here if he's going to survive, but actually they're backing off. They sense the rotation. They have this Dire Ward up on the high ground, and they know Mushi was nearby. Nyx Assassin as well could have vendetted in at any time, so despite a couple of good spells, a cast on top of KYXY, they realized they don't have nearly as much pressure as they were hoping for, and the fact that they couldn't bring him down before Primal Split, not even close, meant that they definitely could have kind of tried to turn that around.
Yeah, and Air's actually going for a rather unusual build. He's going phase boots into drums. Usually, well, I mean, drums is not that unusual anymore, but usually people couple it up with treads into Yasha. But curious to see if he's still going for the blink, which I find is still a good item to have in this kind of match. But yeah.
Hard to say. I definitely think he wants to kind of be able to stand and deliver with his team and is not so worried about just getting the jump on low HP individuals because, honestly, as far as people that you can burst down very, very quickly, the Nyx Assassin has his Carapace and Vendetta, and the Lion has his Hex, which is instantaneous as well. So with that, you're really not going to be able to get that much pressure off. You're not going to be... Oh, we do see the dust popping off, and we are going to see the Impale go across. Big Blade Fury going on through, looking for a kill on TA. She does not have Refraction, gets caught in the cogs here. It's actually better for them than it is for the opposition that put it there. Either way, they do bring down the Nyx Assassin, but the TA falls. Question is, can they get any more out of it with this Brewmaster ultimate popping off the stun onto Rubik? Will do some hits here. It will expire momentarily, but the clap will not follow on through. The Courier, what is the Courier doing? No, Drodo gets dropped down. Blink Dagger was on that Courier. KYXY's Brewmaster Blink Dagger. Oh, no, no, no. Lion does get caught out here. Good hook shot, locking him in place, and it should be perfectly fine for Anti-Mage to... I was thinking he would KS it, but it looks like Jahiro was able to pick that up himself. But the big deal there, the huge deal, is all of KYXY's gold was on that Courier, and for the next 2.5 minutes, that is completely wasted. Blink Dagger delayed substantially. By a little bit of missed micro of the Courier. Of course, I don't think it will ever deliver to when you're in Primal Split form, so it just got a little bit confused and hung out a little bit too much on the front line.
Yeah, this is really clutch, but I think it could be worse. I mean, his ultimate is off cooldown, and usually you want that blink for your clap and ultimate initiation. So it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse if he still had his ultimate off cooldown, but yeah. It's definitely a nice pickoff right there, and still, I think this trade went in favor for Orange. They got TA. They only got TA.
I don't feel very good about that trade at all. They literally got TA and that's it. But they were a pick off on the Lion, and everybody else was just not where they needed to be. They lost the Nyx and the Lion, and of course they lost the First Blood earlier. So no, they lost 2 heroes. They lost a Courier. This was really bad for them.
I thought they might have lost another support, but no, that's then a good trade for Rising Stars.
Yeah,
and they might get a.
They'll put some pressure on the Brewmaster. I don't think they'll be able to bring down, especially with that Meld Strike missing. There is a nice stun coming on through. Will they get the hook shot off to bring him down? Yeah, they do commit the hook shot. They get the kill on top of him. It's very unfortunate that the Meld Strike missed. If that RNG hadn't happened and Air had actually gotten that big burst off, they wouldn't have needed to use the hook shot there. But just playing safer rather than sorry, they are going to be able to finish him off very nicely. Split push going on for Mushi down on bottom. That's what the Basilius and Drum are pretty much designed for. But he is going to be forced off the lane a little bit by that Rocket Flare and knowing that they can kind of flank to counter gank at any point in time.
Yeah, should be interesting to see what Mushi's going for in terms of items. Well, again, I've seen a lot of these strats with his dual core with Lone Druid and Juggernaut, and usually these Juggernauts actually go for an Aghanim sometimes. But,
yeah,
knowing Mushi might actually be a Shadow Blade, but who knows.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options there, but a little bit of mobility, utility, and damage. Never hurt anybody there. Either way, we're going to see the Battle Cry active on that bear, which is at max rank now, so it is getting the Demolish passive. Bringing down this tower very quickly, forcing out the fortification, and it's willing to tank up on the front line here. It can just stand here and claw it down, no problem at all. We do see a quick little attempt for a deny, not going to happen, and also a little bit of stun back and forth, but kind of just throwing more insult than injury. We're going to see everybody just falling back from here.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of a weird decision by Orange to back off here. They just forced out a fortification, and they do have everything up. I think they could have forced at least a team fight or something like this, because they had everything up, the Brewmaster ultimate, but maybe they're just waiting for the Blink Dagger to finally arrive, and yeah it's going to be delivered right now.
So KYXY, the Courier responds. He has a Bracer for a little bit more mana to work with here. He will eventually get those Arcanes, I believe, but in this position here, he's just happy to be able to actually be mobile. Blink Dagger, Blink Stagger. Been waiting for that for quite some time because obviously not intending for his Courier to be slain. And yeah, he would have had an amazingly timed Blink Dagger. I mean, it would have been around 11-12 minutes, and instead we're looking at it 14 and a half, and that's comparatively speaking a big loss for him. But still has his opportunities, just has to find the window to use them. Right now, Zautuji does have his Battle Fury up, though. It's going to be harder to put that pressure out on him because he's just farming like a madman. Right now, 136 CS. He's at a GPM of 537. And that's only going to get worse. He's maxed out his Blink to synergize with the timing of his Battle Fury. There is a double stack on the Ancient Camp, and yeah, he's just going to be all over the place. Meanwhile, on the mid lane, we are going to see a return kill on that mid tier 1 tower. So both fortifications are down. It looks like a 1-for-1 trade. Top tier 1 for mid tier 1, but we see a follow-up smoke. So with Nyx Assassin coming on down as well as Lion, there is a possibility for them to be picked off here. Mofi has that hookshot available long range and just has to actually get a good amount of vision on them. Goes for the hookshot, does not hit it though, and instead they go in. The Vendetta does come on through. Is not stolen by XDDD. He just picks up the Impale. But either way, the jig is up. They're going to have to just go for a little bit of a standard push or maybe just fall back from here because they're not exactly... I will with this Observer Ward, I think they're much more comfortable about the situation. But they know that Nyx is invisible. Going on Super right here. What is he doing? Completely out of position. There is going to be the Primal Split to follow it up. Will they get more out of it? They can go ahead and Tornado up the Clockwork here to make sure they can close the distance. But it's just going to be Mushi in the front line doing a lot of damage. Omni Slash after this creep wave comes on through. But it's going to be that Earth Panda stun to lock him down. No tornadoes at all, so that's kind of surprising. But either way, they're going to let them fall back from here. They didn't get the lockdown they needed from the Brewmaster, and instead, they just walk away. Blade Fury stolen by XDD, and they only pick off the Jakiro, which pretty much was dead outright by the Nyx Assassin.
Yeah, I think this was a favorable trade for Rising Stars after all. It looked a bit worse when Jakiro got immediately picked off, but they baited out the Brewmaster ultimate for that, so I think they might be able to take this fight because they are 5 now already again,
yeah.
So...
The question is about Anti-Mage, what position he's in. Right now, he's Vladimiring up his HP value, so he's going to be sitting at about 2/3 if he wants to engage in this upcoming fight. But it does take some time to keep that up, and you generally want your Anti-Mage to avoid fights as much as possible. So we do see a couple ultis, Finger of Death and the Omni Slash doing a lot of damage here. XTD will not get entangled during that Blade Fury, and instead there's just going to be a lot of return damage. Hex does come on through on TA, still no entangles from this Spirit Bear, and the Impale does not lock down over the cliff. Finally entangled, but not in a great spot. Moshi taking a lot of hits here, should be dropped down. It should not commit the ulti, he has no mana missing, but either way, Anti-Mage sends in his typical contribution of 1 right click to finish the job here. So he does get a nice little kill for himself. Actually trying to pursue onto Ohio, but he does, of course, pick up that haste rune, so no problem there. Either way, this Anti-Mage is in an amazing spot right now. 10k net worth. Generally speaking, he's going to try to avoid fights unless he's just going into cleanup. But in this position, he's big enough that he doesn't really have to be afraid of anything. He has the Vladimirs to always make sure his HP is topped off. And on top of that, he can bring in a nice contributional utility aura to his entire team.
Yeah, and the Vladimir's is a really good push item. So being able to split push this efficiently, well, as soon as he goes onto a lane, it's going to help his team a lot and release a bit of pressure. The last engagement, I gotta say, big props to the Jakiro, or well, to Super for that clutch ice death. I think it hit 4 people, and the bear. So was really clutch, helped his team out a lot, saved the Rubik, who was almost about to die. Yeah, good engagement from Rising Stars, and a bit of overcommitment by Orange, I feel.
Yeah, that was a little bit too extended. They went into a position they really couldn't take, and one unfortunate thing was I think they were just kind of looking for one quick pick-off with an entangle, and then kill that person, either force the fight a little bit earlier than Rising Stars wanted it, or to just get the one quick kill and then back off. But they didn't want it to drag out. They didn't want to be all past the tier 2, diving so darn deep, but the stuns weren't connecting, the entangle procs weren't coming on through, and it just wasn't working out for them in that engagement. So they dragged themselves out a lot further than they needed to, and it made it very, very difficult. Now they do have this Brewmaster ultimate coming up in just a moment. They are topping themselves off with the Arcanes and Bottle and such, but it looks like Ohio is going to break away from the pack to counteract that split push coming in from the Anti-Mage, and it's going to be on the rest of Orange to go for a 4 versus 4 if they feel confident about it, which I honestly don't really think so. In this position, especially with what Mofi can accomplish in the middle of a fight, breaking it apart with the cogs, they can be in a really desperate spot. Along with that, we do see Zautuji going in for this Roshan attempt, and with the Vlads, with the Meld Strike, they're going to be able to bring this down in no time at all.
Yeah, now he has his Yasha delivered, so this is definitely no problem for him. And an Aegis on him, or maybe even Air, and they can play so much more aggressively when pushing or split pushing. But it's going to be Zautuji who is going to pick it up, and yeah, that's a safe decision.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what he's designed to do right now, is just be the safe reliable farmer that will continuously ramp up this gold, and he has most certainly been accomplishing that. He's actually about to double... Oh, okay. I was going to say double the net worth of the Juggernaut, but just as I say that, Juggernaut picked up quite a bit of gold himself, so he's still going to be very far behind, and he has to keep pace if he's going to be able to do anything, comparatively speaking, because after the Mantis style, Zautuji could be looking at a heart or a butterfly, and if he does go for the butterfly and there's no Monkey King bars on the field, there's going to be a lot of difficulty. I could imagine also maybe like a Drunken Haze steal from Rubik could be very, very frustrating for them, so those kinds of things. Monkey King bar is going to be very relevant very soon, and right now, Armlet and Shadow Blade is not going to cut it. But either way, they do get the Shadow Blade delivered out to the Juggernaut, and at the very least, they have a lot of opportunity to burst out on the supports. They can go on in, either do the little cutesy Blade Fury during Shadow Blade combo, or actually go in for a Blade Fury or a Shadow Blade right click and then follow up with an Omni Slash. So either way, it will allow Mushi to close the distance. The question is to what end. If they have so many sentries up with the Nyx Assassin on the field, and you can't get in for that strike, then there is a limited functionality with that pickup here.
Yeah, but I think it also allows him to be a split pusher just by himself, and also just the additional attack speed, and I think also movement speed when you go invisible is also nice to have, because Juggernaut is very fast natural as well. So he's TPing to the mid lane.
Yeah, trying to put pressure on AM, but the second he sees a TP, he's perfectly fine to back off. Even with this Aegis, he's still a very, very careful player in Zautuji. Gonna focus on just getting that dollar, focusing on the last hits. Right now, 196, he's farming it up. And right now, there's no issue forced against Rising Stars' 4 other individuals against their towers. Orange kind of needs to start utilizing this push potential with the Spirit Bear and Mushi's Healing Ward, as well as the damage pressure, which is all these items that they've built up just now, but they don't feel confident in it. The Brewmaster ulti is now at least level 2, with the fact that he has hit level 11, but unless they get a very favorable initiation, it seems like Orange is extremely tentative about forcing the issue here.
Yeah, they really seem scared. They've been gathered up as 4 for the past, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, in fact, and they haven't gotten much farm aside from the Juggernaut, so they might get a tower out of this, but I don't think this is a favorable trade for them, because the anti-mage is completely free farming, and the supports from Rising Stars are getting necessary items. There's a mech now on the Clockwork. Well, it should be on the Courier, I guess. Yeah, it's on the Courier. But yeah, they don't really need much more. Well, maybe a bit of items on the TA.
So Healing Ward stolen, actually. I'm not sure how that's going to play into it, but here comes Zautuji trying to make something happen. Does get clapped up for a little bit, but the big deal is trying to run KYXY out of mana, but Magic Wand brings it back to full. They're going to do it anyways, going on in. Actually, Zautuji right on top of the Lone Druid, focusing him down, but gets stunned out, gets entangled up, going to pop off the Manta Style, still taking a lot of hits, gets spinned, and he will be dropped down. Big damage coming on through. He will come up with the Aegis Immortal in just a moment. We do see the cogs going on top of net, locking him in place. Zautuji still going aggressive here. He does get stunned up by the Earth Panda, but there is a kill on the Rubik. Now looking for Mushi, he Shadow Blades out, but there's a big ultimate coming in from Antimates, cleaning up on another. That's a double kill for him, and they're trying to get KYXY. He gets cogged out, he gets slowed down. There's a trap on top of the Dual Breath. Meanwhile, Zautuji trying to focus down onto Nyx Assassin, gets entangled up instead. So the heroes claimed are the Juggernaut, the Lion, and the Brewmaster in the end.
Yeah, wow, that was... At first I was like, okay, Orange has this fight, because they got Zautuji locked, and nobody came in to actually help them out, because they were all busy trying to fight the Panda Brewlings, which I find, well, I don't know, I think in that situation they should have saved the Anti-Mage, but he had the Aegis, so he was fine anyway, and was a really good trade. Anti-Mage cleaned up with his ultimate very nicely, barely hit on the edge of the Sentry Ward, I think, but
Yeah, very, very close positioning, but yeah, he was able to make it happen, got the Mana Void off, and it hit 2 heroes, did a lot of damage. They just did so much right there. Very, very effective for him. Very interesting targeting choice for Zautuji with his first life, though. He jumped on top of the Lone Druid, who in my mind is the tankiest guy on the board, and bringing down his mana isn't going to be exactly relevant. So what do you think about that decision? Going on Ohio, jumping past 3 different people to get on top of him?
I think he didn't feel confident in actually taking out KYXY before he gets his ultimate off.
Okay.
And I know that, well, I guess it feels a bit redundant when you hit on him and then he gets his ultimate off anyway, and then he regens up while he's still in his ultimate form. I think it does. Anyway, and yeah, that's why I guess he jumped on Ohio. Also, I guess he was trying to soak up a lot more damage so that his team can come in and support him, and it worked out, I guess. They had the Aegis, and they knew that they could fight this aggressively.
Yeah, absolutely a great use of the Aegis, using his full life to its fullest, and putting themselves in a great spot now. They are leading 8-4, and his net worth is still remaining out of this world. 250 last hits, 4-0-0. This anti-mage is going to be a force to be reckoned with on the board, and the question is whether or not anybody else on the map really has any tools to deal with him. Of course, Drunken Haze will help when his Manta Style is down, but they really are going to be relying on like the Lone Druid to go into a disable-oriented build. Of course, having the Entangles, later going for the Basher and possibly Abyssal, just trying to lock him down. Right now, they're going to go for the Assault Cross, which I think is rather potent, countering out the aura benefits of the Vladimirs, as well as just making sure that they have plenty of attack speed for Entangles on the Bear. But the really, really big deal is when they start getting actual lockdown on Anti-Mage, because as long as he's not disabled, he is going to be doing a monstrous amount of damage.
Yeah, I think they need a bit of farm or a few levels, or at least a crucial item on the line, because last engagement he popped everything on the anti-mage, and after that he was completely out of mana. There was nothing he could actually use on other heroes or on the anti-mage after he had his second life. So I think the line pick was based around the anti-mage, so that they can counter him. But what are you going to do if you run out of mana?
Absolutely. So he's going to keep on split pushing, putting pressure on this top tier 1. This is their opportunity to go on top of them. They're going to go in. They can get the Hex out immediately out of the smoke. It will give an opportunity. They're going to break the smoke. They're going to go for the Hex. They do not get it off, though. Unfortunately, Anti-Mage just a little too quick on his feet, able to get on out of there before Net can get in range.
Yeah, this is why they need a blink of force or something along those lines, just to have at least an additional range of initiation on that line, because, yeah, you saw that. As soon as the smoke breaks, he's just gonna blink out. He expects something like that, so...
Yeah, good reaction, good timing, and honestly, it's just a little bit projected with the fact that they're all off the map, and there's such darn good warding coming out of Rising Stars. We look at the dire ward coverage, it's all over. They papered across. We do hear a Clockwork ulti going in on top of the Nyx Assassin. He's going to go for a TP, but the Mana Void comes on out, bursting him down, and a double damage right click is all they need to finish him off. Big, big hits from the Anti-Mage. Mega kill streak comes out for him. And that, yeah, couldn't have been worse timing for them, as now the Tier 2 will be dropping quickly. Drunken Haze will help to mitigate some of the damage, but we do, of course, see that he has that double damage, and every right click that does land will be substantial. So going in, Manting out, he will be able to bring this down quickly.
Yeah, and this is... I mentioned that Orange has a really strong push, and Rising Stars has basically no counter push, but look at Orange lineup. What is their counter push, in fact? If Anti-Mage pounds on that tower, what are they going to do? So yeah, and oh, Baruch. I thought he had stolen Drunken Haze, but those might just be me tripping again.
No problem, I don't know, maybe it expired, but either way, in this position here, Super and XDD have just been doing such a great job. Going back to the ward coverage, they've papered it across all of the Radiant Jungle, covering up where Juggernaut or the Lone Druid might be farming it up, covering up the bottom rune spawn where the Roche engagements will be. Everything along those lines allows them to know where they're farming and when they're not. And when they're not farming, that means they're putting pressure out, trying to bring down the anti-mage, and immediately Zautuji can just blink away, avoid any real entanglement, and just put him in a great position where he can have a very good understanding of when he's threatened and when he can go for the split push. So by inadvertently, he doesn't have to have the wards on the outside. If they have like a ward here, that's not going to help that much if they go for a smoke, which is obviously what they've been attempting to do. But if you have a ward out here and knowing they're farming, then you're actually just going to know exactly when you're safe and have no second guessing about it. So that puts him in a great position to continue his split push rampage, and there's really not that much that Orange can do to prevent it.
Yeah, and in addition to all the nice wards, they also have a few crucial traps on the map. I mean, they have one on the Ancient Camp and one on the high ground next to the Tier 2 mid. So they do see some crucial... I think this spot at the Tier 2 mid is actually a spot where people don't expect to be watched. And if they do smoke, maybe even there. So it's nice to have those traps lying around, just in addition.
Absolutely. So, Zautuji farming up has his Heart of Tarrasque, will be saving up for buyback most likely next, and then can go for pretty much whatever his heart's desire. I expect a Butterfly, but whatever he really needs to stay on top of things. Of course, Monkey King Bar is pretty good up against that Brewmaster as well. But the big thing is, as long as he can stay alive, he is not going to be too concerned. He has the Spell Shield built in, so high amount of magic damage mitigation, and he is very, very farmed. 25-40 as far as HP values go. He dishes out a ton of right-click damage, and he's actually willing to go right past the tower. With this heart active, unless he takes hero-based damage, he's always going to be at full HP. So, going down on this tower very, very quickly. Not going to Manta out of the Haze, just going to let it expire here, but still going to do a lot of damage to the tower very gradually. And with Lone Druid up in the mid lane, there's nothing that they're actually willing to commit to. in this position. Actually, Mofi could have gone for a pretty good hook shot. Kind of not understanding why he doesn't have his second point in it, actually. As far as point allocation, yeah, he has 11 skill points used, just a little bit more in the battery assault than the Clockwork Ultimate itself.
Might have been a misclick because the hook shot scales really well in terms of cooldown, damage, and range as well. So this is one of the spells that you definitely want to skill up. Item-wise, there's also a really nice item on air now. He has his BKB finished, and aside from the Entangle, there's nothing on the Radiant side that really goes through that. So he'll be such a nuisance in those team fights, and he deals really a lot of damage as soon as Refraction's up and Meld strikes and whatnot.
So we are looking for a smoke gank to come on into this mid lane. Could catch out Super here. Really, really bad for him. Coming on forward. They go for the clap. They do connect with it. We are going to see a steal of the clap, but not a big deal. Zao on the front line, though. First down, Nyx does get hit by his own Mana Void. So a lot of damage coming in there. BKB popped off by air, doing as much damage as possible. But that Lone Druid's pretty darn tanky. The Primal Split comes on through. Bears everywhere. Not killing anybody yet. Here comes that Omni Slash coming out to bring down Mofi, but a nice Ghost Scepter keeps him alive. He will get mech'd up. He will get on out of here. Zao on the chase. Do they have the detection to finish him off? It doesn't look like it. So in the end, only supports die, only picking off the Nyx, the Lion, and the Jakiro, but still a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Rising Stars, and they do have the Aegis, they do have the Heart, they can force high ground with Zao alone.
Yeah, definitely. Too bad the dust expired about a few seconds before Mushi ran away, so that's kind of an unfortunate play. But still, yeah, as you mentioned, beautiful fight by them. Too bad the Anti-Mage got hit by his own Void, otherwise it would have been a lot better fight for Rising Stars. He was stunned for a second, and that kind of hurt his damage output.
Yeah, a little bit, but still not having too many issues. They force out the Primal Split, which means that's not going to be a factor. Hex is already on cooldown now. He's just going to go for the tower. Now he can go for anything he wants. They don't have detection. They do get entangled up, so they won't be able to lock down the Juggernaut, but he is completely confident in his position here. There's nothing to kill him, no potential whatsoever, so he's just going to, move in and out a little bit here and there, and still duking it out with the Bear. I mean, this Bear has 2,700 HP. He's like, screw it, I have 2,400. I can do it. But taking a lot of hits here. He does pop off the Manta style, but gets hit by the Impale. They're going to go on the Brewmaster here, though, and that should be an easy kill. Good stun combo, good usage, and I think that might have been a Rubik Omni Slash. Yeah, popping that off very, very nicely. Good steal from him, and now going to steal up the Impale, which is another very, very effective spell. Either way, good game is called. Going to the next one, because this game one was just completely dominated. I generally love to give MVP more so to the high utility supports who add in a lot of presence of mind, but there's no way I can skim on Zao presence here. He did such a great job, constantly farming, constantly communicating with his team. He was the man. He was always farming, always in the right position, but when they needed to fight, when they needed him in the right position, he was always willing to be there as well. So he had the best presence of mind, avoided every single pickoff gank, and that ends the game with him 6-0-1, 329 CS, and at a very substantial net worth, though that has since gone away. I guess we'll just look at GPM of 709, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned that he made all the right decisions. I mean, in pubs it's kind of, well, people hate it when the Anti-Mage just comes in and swipes the last hit on a kill, but if you think about it, it's really necessary because it's extra farm for him, and yeah, he just snowballed, and he knew what to do with his farm, and that one engagement I think won them the fight where he went in with the Aegis and made full use of that and soaked up so much damage, and his team was able, almost to clean up afterwards. So
yeah, it seemed almost like an overextension in that circumstance, but they were able to follow it up after the fact, so they had full intention of making sure they used every little bit of that health that it provides them, and they came out on top of that one, and just about every single trade, back and forth, there were either even trades with tier 1 for tier 1s, or there were favorable exchanges. Every single kills exchange came out on top. I mean, they started the ball rolling really nicely with the First Blood with the Haste Rune active, so a little bit of luck there, but it's just good usage. I mean, once they get those tools, they certainly put them to good use here, knowing that the Lone Druid wouldn't have anybody to help him out. So, in general, they started things off strong, and they never really stopped. Really, really good movement from Rising Stars. Well played to Zao and the Anti-Mage, and we'll be going on into this second game. Again, this is the quarterfinals of the AMD Premier League, and we're going to be seeing who is going to be moving on forward to those semis in this best-of-3 series. Rising Stars versus Orange. Game 2 will be coming up next. Do you have any other clothing thoughts on the game, Skim?
Nah, you summed it up pretty well.
Sure enough, sure enough. All right, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. I'm Blaze. You can check me out at twitter.com/blazecasting. This is Skim, co-casting up with me. You can check him out at twitter.com/skimgaming. And that's going to be it for this game 1 here. Going on to the next game in just a minute. Thanks for tuning in, guys.